Tom Cameron's great.
Chad Huntley. David Brinson, John Chen. Tom Brokaw.
Bad intelligence? Is Iran building a bomb? What's North Korea up to? What the U.S. apparently does and does not know after years of trying to find out. Debtors and dollars. Tonight, the big fight over changes to America's bankruptcy laws. Should it be harder for you and your family to get a fresh start? Lifeline, treating breast cancer. Tonight, why some say doctors have a financial incentive to perform unnecessary mastectomies. And stand-in stand-ups. Jay Leno puts the gag in gag order.
What's Michael Jackson's favorite wine? Come on, your mom won't know.
Why he's letting other comedians do the Michael Jackson jokes these days.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. The American people are constantly being told what a dangerous place the world is right now. In fact, the president and others have gone further, telling us exactly who the bad guys are, the very nations around the world that pose a clear and present danger. But there is word out of Washington tonight that a commission studying U.S. intelligence is about to say the administration may be on shaky ground here because they don't have enough intelligence to go on. And on this day, when we learned of so much new carnage in Iraq, a well-known hotspot, this is just the beginning of this story tonight. And we begin here with NBC's Pete Williams.
The Bush administration today defended its concerns over Iran's ambitious and ambiguous nuclear program. The president says the U.S. isn't the only country that's worried.
I think it's very important for the United States to continue to work with our friends and allies, which believe that the Iranians want a nuclear weapon.
Today's comments come as a commission appointed a year ago prepares to issue its final report later this month, one that's expected to say U.S. intelligence doesn't know enough about the nuclear programs of Iran or North Korea. Some experts on Iran say that's an especially tough assignment because policy there is controlled by only a few.
It's made by a very narrow collection of people. And they tend to also be members of the same sort of a clerical elite, people who have known each other for decades and have familiarity with each other.
Other complications, Iran's nuclear facilities could be used to make energy or weapons, and Iran is trying to hide some key facilities. These satellite pictures taken just last month reveal new tunnels near a uranium storage facility and show progress in building a new research reactor south of Tehran. Another complicating factor, says a former CIA official, is information from groups opposed to Iran's leadership.
Much of this information is good, but you have to question whether all of it is good or whether they have an agenda that they're peddling.
But Democrats in Congress say that's all the more reason to push harder for better intelligence on Iran.
I don't want to see us wake up one morning and suddenly learn that they have this nuclear weapons capability. Iran ought to be at the top of the list of the countries we're looking at.
Administration officials tonight say they always want better intelligence, but claim there's enough known already to justify leaning harder on Iran to disclose exactly what it's up to. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
And now to one of the known hotspots on the planet, and this was an awful, bloody day in Iraq. Bodies found beheaded, a garbage truck loaded with explosives, and yet still more tantalizing clues about the man who may be pulling the strings here. Our report from Baghdad tonight, here is NBC's Peter Alexander.
The explosion was so loud it woke up most of Baghdad, so powerful it left a huge crater in the ground outside a hotel used by Westerners. 3 people were killed and at least 30 Americans were wounded. NBC News has learned they are State Department contractors working for DynCorp here to train Iraqi police. A fast vehicle rammed into the hotel and exploded, this survivor says. Iraqi police say it was a garbage truck packed with explosives. In the southern city of Basra, a roadside bomb blast struck an Iraqi police convoy, killing an officer. Both bombings follow a series of gruesome discoveries across Iraq. 26 bodies, each riddled with bullets, were found in a town near the Syrian border. South of Baghdad in Latifah, 15 more corpses discovered, some shot, some beheaded, several of them women and children, most believed to be Iraqi soldiers. As for this morning's hotel bombing, Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility. Its leader in Iraq, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, seen here in pictures obtained and released by the U.S. military.
Zarqawi's message is in-your-face defiance. What he's saying is he's still here, he's still dangerous.
As the hunt for Zarqawi continues, the U.S. military hopes these new pictures will help them capture one of the masterminds behind this country's insurgency that's left more than 100 Iraqis dead since Monday. Peter Alexander, NBC News, Baghdad.
And we have the latest tonight on the shooting of that Italian Secret Service agent and the just-freed Italian hostage in Iraq last week. Italy's President Silvio Berlusconi contradicted Washington's version of events that night, saying the car was traveling at slow speed and stopped immediately when a light was flashed at a checkpoint. He also said the agent had notified the proper authorities that he was on his way to the airport after winning her release. And the battle over Syria's involvement in Lebanon moved to the streets of Syria's capital of Damascus today, where tens of thousands of Syrians gathered in the city center in support of President Bashar al-Assad. In Beirut, a pro-Syrian majority in Lebanon's parliament nominated Omar Karami to form a new government there just 9 days after he stepped down under pressure. We have a follow-up tonight to an NBC News investigation that has resulted in a U.S. Justice Department review. It has to do with letters written from convicted terrorists from the first World Trade Center bombing. These are currently behind bars in a super maximum security U.S. prison. Letters intended to whip up the faithful against the U.S. Tonight we learned there are more of them. Our report this evening from NBC News senior investigative correspondent Lisa Myers.
Today, top prison officials acknowledge that these three World Trade Center bombers wrote about 90 letters to contacts on the outside. Letters not only to a Spanish terror cell, but also to other Islamic extremists. Law enforcement sources tell NBC News that some of these letters, written in 2003 and 2004, went to militants in Morocco, a hotbed of terror recruiting.
Lord knows what these letters said. I mean, maybe they were just propaganda. Maybe they were instructions.
I don't believe this kind of thing should be happening.
In an interview with NBC's Pete Williams, Attorney General Gonzalez says he's working to fix the problem.
I was surprised. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me, and I'm sure to the average American, you have to wonder, how could this happen?
Corrections officers at Supermax tell NBC News that they complained to top officials a year and a half ago that letters from the bombers and other terrorists were not being carefully monitored. They say they were ignored. Today, Justice Department officials say they've imposed new restrictions on letter writing by the three bombers because they broke a rule by writing letters to inmates in Spanish prisons. Joe Mansour, who works at a federal prison in Virginia and is translated in terror cases, warned 2 years ago that many Arabic letters and phone calls are unmonitored due to a lack of Arabic-speaking staff.
In my opinion, nothing should come out of these prisons without being monitored. Nothing.
However, prison officials argue there always were plenty of translators. Arabic experts say prison officials underestimated the potential recruiting power of letters from convicted terrorists.
It's a power that the average person or the average imam in a mosque doesn't have.
Senior administration officials say they're now considering tighter restrictions on outside contact by all convicted terrorists. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
In Washington on Capitol Hill, the Senate has spent the day debating a bill designed to make it much harder for consumers who are in debt to get a fresh start through bankruptcy laws. Critics say the bill is a handout to credit card companies. Supporters say it's reform that's long overdue. Here is NBC's Chip Reed.
The Senate late today, nearing completion of the first major overhaul of the bankruptcy laws in 25 years.
The amendment is not agreed to.
The bill's chief sponsor says it's a long overdue effort to rein in bankruptcy abuse, noting that bankruptcy filings have exploded from 200,000 in 1978 to 1.6 million last year.
This bill is targeted at people who have the ability to repay some of their debt and won't. They go into bankruptcy to seek protection to get out of it. They aren't going to get out of it and get off scot-free anymore.
The bill would require court-ordered repayment plans for any bankruptcy filer who makes more than a state's median income and is able to pay at least $100 a month. But consumer advocates say the bill will cut holes in a safety net for people who've fallen on hard times.
We're not talking about deadbeats. We're talking about people who have lost their jobs, who have been hit with a major illness, who have been through a divorce, and they want to pay their debts, but they can't.
The big winners, credit card companies, retailers, and banks who've spent 8 years and millions of dollars lobbying for the bill. They deny the charge that it's unfair to consumers.
You can still get significant bankruptcy protection, but you pay according to your ability.
Just last month, Congress passed class action reform. Now bankruptcy reform is on the verge of becoming law. Both were at the top of President Bush's pro-business agenda, and both had been stalled for years. So what happened? Well, Republican strategists say that those seats Republicans gained in last fall's election are making a world of difference. Chip Reed, NBC News, the Capitol.
Tonight in Washington State, all eyes are on the skies above a landmark after a rather wild show last night, courtesy of Mount St. Helens. NBC's James Hattori is with us from there tonight with more. James, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. We're about 6 miles from Mount St. Helens. You can see steam continuing to rise from the dome tonight, where scientists say there is a new crack in the surface after last night's explosion. It was a short but spectacular blast that spewed steam and volcanic ash so high pilots spotted it at 36,000 feet and had to fly around it.
The chief hazard is to aircraft. There's very little hazard to people on the ground.
Visible today, a new crack in the dome, venting pressure as molten rock continues to slowly rise to the surface.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
For visitors, a curiosity as a new lava dome continues to form in an eruption which began last October.
We have every reason to believe it'll just keep going the way it's going for a while.
That means more explosions are possible, but scientists say nothing like the catastrophic eruption back in 1980. Brian?
James Hattori with us tonight from Washington State. Thanks. And still ahead as we continue this Thursday night, when the diagnosis is breast cancer and a doctor says a mastectomy is the answer, what should a woman do? And later, Jay Leno's newest gag, leaving some of the gags to others. NBC News in depth tonight, our Listening Post report, the new power of the Arab media. As the world has witnessed a ripple of political change in the Middle East, a look at how technology is spreading and encouraging the message across that region. At our Listening Post tonight, NBC News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent Andrea Mitchell.
It could be the start of a political transformation fueled by a high-tech revolution. In Beirut this week, demonstrators send text messages urging friends to show up for pro-democracy rallies.
We are moving faster to freedom. Be strong. No one should stay home on Monday. Please forward.
Please log to www.aljazeera.net and vote Syria out, and kindly forward this message.
From Damascus to Cairo, satellite dishes are multiplying, beaming images of free speech to millions of people.
Once we have the satellite, it's just rays of freedom, rays of democracy.
Along with internet cafes, Arab television is now transmitting new messages of protest and hope from one country to another. Even before the protests in Lebanon, people say they were inspired by last year's so-called Orange Revolution in Ukraine. In Beirut, 19-year-old Amana Abraham says the word spreads instantly.
One country is affected by the other. It's like a connection, and people seeing what's happening in Beirut and Lebanon, they are affected by this.
The flow of information is a growing threat to autocratic leaders in Syria, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia.
Immediately, people can learn about what's going on in other Arab countries, elections in Iraq or Palestine or protests in Lebanon.
Perhaps the greatest irony, images of democracy are now being spread by the very same Arab networks the White House once criticized for broadcasting threats from Osama bin Laden. Now viewers are calling Al Jazeera and asking why they can't have free elections too.
They sometimes give example to our own coverage of the U.S. elections and the conventions. And how come we don't see something like that in the Arab world?
Satellite television and the internet and even cell phones, helping to break down government censorship in the Arab world. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Up next when we continue, the question so many women are forced to face, is a mastectomy really necessary? A congressional investigation into steroid abuse in Major League Baseball is heating up. 7 current and former baseball stars, including Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Jason Giambi, have been subpoenaed to testify at a committee hearing later this month. Several team executives and officials of Major League Baseball are also set to appear. It is estimated this year alone, 212,000 American women will learn they have breast cancer. After the diagnosis comes that awful question, what's the best treatment? But tonight there is another awful question. Why are doctors performing surgery in some cases where it's not necessarily needed? Here is NBC News Chief Science Correspondent Robert Bazell.
Come on, Minnie. When Susan Grover was diagnosed with breast cancer 4 years ago, she wanted to have just the lump removed. But a surgeon recommended mastectomy, removal of the breast.
It just didn't feel right. It just went against everything.
Sometimes mastectomy is the best treatment. But experts like Dr. Patrick Borgen of Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City say simple removal of the lump, followed by radiation, is often better.
And this involves far less potential long-term effects of the procedure, right?
Absolutely, yes. Less scarring, less untoward sensations, less pain, quicker return to work, quicker return to life activities.
There are many reasons breast cancer patients may not get optimum care, but one of them is financial. Doctors usually get reimbursed far less for procedures that have fewer side effects.
This is actually incredibly large, man. I'm not sure.
Dr. Anthony Lucci of MD Anderson Cancer Center has studied the issue. He points out that Medicare pays almost twice as much for a mastectomy, and private insurers usually follow Medicare's lead. The reason is that mastectomy takes longer, but he says that should not be the major factor in determining payment.
We're trying to get paid for doing better work, smarter work, and work that requires more intellectual and technical skill rather than something that's just brute force work.
Susan Grover ultimately got the less invasive surgery. In fact, she's looking forward to breastfeeding her next child.
Do you think that'll really fit on a baby?
Medicare officials say they are looking for ways to encourage such good outcomes. They are studying methods of reimbursing doctors, not just for their time, but for the quality of care. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
Stocks tumbled on Wall Street today. The Dow down for the 3rd day in a row. It fell 107 points. The Nasdaq was down 12. A note here about the airline business tonight. Are we nearing the day when the cabin announcement actually says your comfort couldn't be less important to us? Today, Delta Airlines announced it is removing pillows from its U.S. flights to save money. If you have to relax, make it fast. The pillows disappear in mid-March. American and Northwest have also removed their pillows. The airlines say passengers are seeking value these days, not frills. Let's just assume the seats are a permanent fixture. When we come back tonight, what is a late-night comic to do when you take away his best material, especially when his name is Jay Leno?
NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work.
Tonight, the news from inside the Michael Jackson trial is that the accuser has taken the stand and will again tomorrow. It's a complicated trial with a long witness list, and those on the list can't talk about the trial. But what if your name is Jay Leno? This trial is his stock and trade. What is this particular witness to do if a gag order means no jokes? Here is NBC's George Lewis.
No question the Michael Jackson trial provides plenty of fodder for late-night comedians.
Well, now Michael Jackson has been accused of leaking grand jury testimony. Yep. You know, I would hate to see Michael get himself into some kind of legal trouble.
But while Dave may be able to make jokes like that, Jay says he can't.
Well, there's this gag order. I'm not allowed to tell any Michael Jackson jokes. I can still write them, I can't tell them.
So, he's been having surrogates do the Jackson jokes.
So let's see what's new in the Michael Jackson trial.
Last Friday, Brad Garrett took over the monologue as Leno kept his mouth shut. On Monday, it was Dennis Miller's turn.
So I see where Michael Jackson and George Hamilton have officially crossed lines on the pigmentation flowchart.
And last night, Roseanne Barr.
Defense lawyers say Michael might testify. They don't really want him to, but they think it's the only way they could get his nose to grow back.
It's beginning to look like a full employment act for guest comics. How long can this go on?
You ever had a lawyer?
The gag order covers everyone connected with the Jackson case.
I'm sorry, I'm under gag order.
And legal experts say it raises serious issues for both Jackson's defense team and the NBC lawyers representing Leno.
The defense may argue, gee, Michael Jackson's right to a fair trial is important. It's also important that Jay Leno have his First Amendment rights.
And while the lawyers argue, Leno and his guests are having the last laugh.
What's Michael Jackson's favorite wine? Come on, your mom won't know.
George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Finally here tonight, as you may have heard, there is a changing of the guard taking place just a few blocks away from here tonight. After 24 years in the anchor chair, Dan Rather is signing off one last time as anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. And a personal note, Dan's been a friend for close to 20 years. Professionally, he is a very tough competitor, as is the man who will be taking over that chair as interim anchor beginning tomorrow night, Bob Schieffer. And so we wish both of our friends, both proud Texans, only the very best. That is NBC Nightly News for this Wednesday, March 9th, 2005. Make that Thursday. I'm Brian Williams. We'll look for you right back here tomorrow night. Good night.